with the Center for Social Innovation Studies. And today's topic will be about women and myth of flexibility in gig economy. So for today's speakers, we have two speakers and one moderator. The speakers we have are Mbak Trevi and Mas Paska. Mbak Trevi is the research manager of CfDS, while also Mas Paska is the head of the Digital Intelligence Lab for CfDS. And for our moderator, we have Professor Jack, who is a professor at the Department of Communications and New Media from National University of Singapore. So all the way from Singapore, right here to Jogja for Google Meets. Thank you very much for being our moderator, Professor Jack. I'm glad to have you here. Before I give the stage to the speakers and the moderator, allow me to convey a few informations. First of all, as mentioned before by Trevi, we hope that this discussion will be a very rich and fruitful discussion. We encourage everyone to chip a couple of questions because from CfDS, usually when we have these sort of discussions, we will give out special prizes for the best questions that are being asked. So don't be hesitant to ask any questions. And for the participants who signed up to our links, we will also accommodate the e-certificates, but the links for that will be given later on after the show is over, so please stay tuned. And also a little bit of information for Professor Jack. During the Q&A session, the questions will be delivered through the chat box of Google Meets. So during the question and answer sessions, if you would mind, Professor Jack, please keep an eye on the chat box because the messages will be sent through there. And it could be from our staff relaying the questions from the YouTube live, or it could be questions from participants directly from the Google Meet itself. And I think that's all. Oh, but last but not least, don't forget to check our websites, which the links will be posted in the chat box too. Our website is at cfds.visipol.ugm.ac.id. Don't forget to follow our social media at Instagram is at cfds_ugm, and also the same for Twitter. And we have our publications, which is for our research, ugm.id/cfds publications. And for any critiques and suggestions, please give us so at ugm.id/kritik-saran-cfds. All the links for all of it will be given in the chat box below. So I think that's all for me as the MC. I'll see you guys later after the discussion's over. So for now, I will give my time to Professor Jack. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Karin. Can everyone hear me all right? Yes, so greetings from Singapore. And I would like to start by welcome everyone to this special occasion of lunchtime discussion. Right? I think in Indonesia now is the best time for a brown bag, lunch gathering. Whereas in Singapore, in Hong Kong, we have people in other parts where 1 hour early. So this is like right after, and it's a very exciting and a very important topic, for us to discuss today. So what I'm going to say is just a few, background, reminders to pave the way to warm things up for Paska and Trevi. And I'm doing this introduction because we have a global network for fair work, is to look how this platform economy creates fair or unfair, or foul, fair or foul information, working conditions for workers around the world. The Indonesian team, if my memory serves me right, joined this global team even before my time. I just moved from Hong Kong to Singapore half a year ago, and then I was joining this net. Maybe today there's some colleagues who are in the room who are also belonging to the global net. And then, so from Hong Kong, Singapore, but also other parts of Asia, especially Thailand and Philippines, we were connected with all these other networks. So in the past few months, we already did, and from mainland China too, we did a series of internal talk among we call it the Fair Work regional network, East and Southeast Asia. And but then because we were only starting, so we did most of the meetings. We've always done 3 or 4 meetings every month, okay, at the in the middle of the month, and but we only did it internally, okay, rather than today. So I'm really excited and also grateful, okay, with our Indonesian team, okay, that we can open it up to make it public, okay, so that everyone can join via Google Meet or watch it on YouTube. So I'm thrilled, okay, to hear the latest funding, but also in the last few months we had already internally we heard the research work and findings in the Philippines, okay, in Thailand and in China, and in part from Hong Kong too, okay, and then we were having a discussion. So of course the pandemic for all this gig, okay, delivery, okay, transport, OJAC, okay, type of work, the pandemic actually exerts uneven, okay, impact, okay. Some parts, okay, if you are doing food delivery to the CBD, okay, to the office tower, the dense office tower of Jakarta, then you're going to lose business because everyone is working from home, right? But for those who do delivery to residential areas, okay, actually, there are more business in people at home rather than in the office space. So it's very uneven. And even more importantly is in Asia, okay, Southeast Asia, included, there are gender disparity. Okay, 2 months ago, I think the Thai team, okay, also focused on gender and labor. So this is in a way we are continuing with this line of what we call digital labor. Okay, we study labor in the digital era. Okay, so the 20th century traditional conventional labor study usually, that's at least that's my understanding, do not pay enough attention to gender because they were under the guidance. Sometimes people would call the straitjacket of Marxism, traditional Marxism, to only look at class, okay, as the single important factor. But in the 21st century, okay, class still matters, still very important. But at the same time, gender, religion, race, ethnicity, okay, even regional identity for a country, okay, I would say Indonesia in a way is quite similar to my home country. I grew up in China. Okay, these are so-called nation states, but if you look inside Indonesia, these are civilizations. Indonesia is as much as a civilization like China. There's so different islands, even East Java, West Java. Okay, there's so many different, okay, regional, okay, identities. So all these other things, I think when we study digital labor, we should learn more about. So I think I've said enough, okay, and I should give the time to our main speakers. I'm only warming things up, okay, and I think this is also a very important study, from Yogyakarta, but covers different cities, across the huge, okay, archipelago of Indonesia, okay, and in what ways are findings from different Indonesian cities similar or distinct from each other? Or in what ways, I know people are participating are coming from different parts of Asia, other Asian countries, or even different parts of the world. Do we see the similar patterns, okay, problematic patterns, even solutions? Okay, some of the solutions might be pioneered workers themselves or by policymakers, okay, corporate sector, governments, are they at the local city level or at the national, okay, even higher transnational level? Those are the questions I would like to open it up, okay, to again invite everyone to this very important sharing today from Indonesia. Thank you. Over to you, Trevi and Paska.
Okay, thank you very much, Jack, for the opening and the warming up. I think everyone now can see the state that we are here right now. Thank you also, Jack, for initiating the Regional Forum for Asia. I think when we are talking about like fair work and fair labor, like fair practice, usually the discourse that's coming, what's being fair is like being regulated, coming from the experience from the Western country, what it means to be fair and etc. But I think as Jack has also mentioned, Asia itself, especially Southeast Asia, we also have our different contexts when it comes to labor, when it comes to how we perceive what is fair, when it comes to how it's not just about class, it's also about gender, and also another different socio-cultural context that we have in our country. So today, Paska and I will be, I will say, just like telling a story of what we have found so far in Indonesia, based on our research, our current research on Indonesia's woman ojek online driver. If I may, I will I would like to present my PowerPoint now. Okay. So, what I will be presenting with Paska today is the myth of flexibility and work-life balance, the gendered experience of women online ojek drivers in Indonesia. If you're thinking of what is ojek, ojek is essentially a motorbike taxi in Indonesia. So it's also something that is, I think, very different if we are talking about the experience of, like online driver in the US or like in the Europe, where they don't have these motorbike taxis for transportation. So, but it is something that is very frequent happening. Like it is something that's very normal in the context of Southeast Asia, especially when Gojek first started and like expand the business coming from Indonesia to other countries in Southeast Asia. So the word ojek, it comes from the type of like transportations mode from by using motorbike. So we see here that women usually have like becoming invited to the term of like online work and like gig economy because of the term of like flexibility. You can work while also at the same time you can still spare some time for your domestic chores, for example. So they promote this type of work-life balance because in this type of gig economy, you can like choose when you start to work, when your work will stop, like by afternoon or like by night, for example, like that. However,
Sorry, Refi. Sorry to interrupt. Can you maybe make the screen to full screen for the presentation? So that
sure,
people can read that. Okay. Thank you.
okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so like what I said before, the promotion, like what invites them to come to this type of gig economy, usually coming from that work-life balance. You have the flexibility and all. However, studies also found that actually, even when women are being part of this gig economy, they usually earn less than their male counterpart. And also in Indonesia and also in some other countries, we found that the type of issues such as safety, for example, like sexual harassment and also social stigma, still very much rampant in this kind of industry. So we see there is this gendered issues happening in this type of work also. So it's like it kind of like translate the same thing happening with the traditional type of work here. So we see that it still maintains the same old problems of gender gap in employment, be it the wage, be it the stereotype, and also the stigma when women are working in this type of economy. So what we are trying to do here is to discuss the working experience of women ojek drivers in Indonesia and also the notion of flexibility that is like championed by the platforms when they are promoting this type of like women in our platform. So what we do here, we conduct face-to-face interviews with our participants from different cities, different island also. So of course, first is like from Jogja and also Surabaya. It's in the eastern part of Java, and then Jakarta, the capital city. Makassar is in Sulawesi Island, and also Medan from Sumatra Island. The cities that are being chosen are the one that are like big cities and also have communities of women ojek drivers. So that's why we pick these 5 cities. In total, we have roughly 30 female motorbike drivers for our research participants. So when we talk about flexibility again, in gig economy, we see there are 2 types of flexibility: flex time and also flex place, where, you know, flex time you can choose when to work, and flex place is when you can choose where to work. So when we talk about ojek online drivers, you can choose when to start working, because, you know, like you can just go to the street anytime you want, and also where do you want to work. Essentially, it still has to be in the same area where you sign up to becoming that ojek online driver. However, you can pick the locations that you think, you know, like some ojek online driver think that some places have more orders than the other. As Jack mentions before, before the pandemic, maybe in the capital city, in the office buildings, but now maybe more on the like on the housing area where people do deliveries from shops and from restaurants, rather than before when people go to work to the office building. When we talk about flexibility, we borrow actually a concept coming from Ledonvirta in 2018 here. We see that even though they champion this notion of flexibility, there is still 2 main structural factors that constrain the gig workers when they're working in this type of economy. First is the availability of work. So essentially, Ledonvirta state that because the distribution of work still coming from the algorithm that they cannot access, that is not open for them, that is like even it's like not disclosed to the public. So that's why it's not like a purely flexible type. There is still structural constraint to that, because they cannot really choose it. The algorithm like assign what they can get or what they cannot get. And also, I think this is what's interesting when we talk about gig economy. It's the workers' dependence on income. Maybe when the gig economy is starting to like flourish everywhere, we are talking about how it can be our side income, because other than our main job, we can also have another income from this type of economy. However, what we see here also in Indonesia, there are also gig workers who are very dependent on this type of job, because it is their only source of income. That's why it's not gonna be flexible, again, for those who are like very relying to this type of job for their source, for their main source of income, because then you know, you have to fulfill your standard living of wage based on the job that you can get from the platform. It's different when it's like it's your side income. It's not like something that is very important for you. Like it's not your main income. That's why it's different. So we will try to dissect the the finding that we have based on our interviews, based on these two structural constraints, and if there is any that is specific to the woman in these two type of structural constraint, is it the same for all the women working in this gig economy, or is there any layer added to this already existing structural constraint? So first, availability of work. We have discussed before that the algorithm assigned workers to what they can get, like the job that they can get, where the locations and also the ratings and all, it's based on the algorithms from the worker. That's why it's actually not too flexible. However, what we have found during our interview with this woman online object driver is that the woman working in this type of a job actually experience another layer of structural constraint due specifically to their gender attribute. Why? It is the problem of cancellation. So in the previous traditional object, it's very rare to see women working in this type of job, like doing transportations, like riding motorcycles and bringing people coming from one point to another point. But however, since the coming of Gojek and also Grab, we see more women participating in this type of job. At first, we might see that, oh, okay, maybe this is championing, like empowering the women. Now they can work in this sector. However, we see even when they are already in there, they're still experiencing issues that is specific to their gender attribute. So as you can see here from the interviews and transcript that we have done with the respondent, first, Miss Anne, for example, many cancel their orders because I'm a woman. It is almost every day. At least once a day, I got cancellations due to being a woman. So this is also resonated with the Mrs. M here. When they see us, when they arrived to pick up the customer, and the customer said, "You're a woman. I'm sorry, I'm not used to being on a ride with a woman. May I cancel the order?" So this type of experience happened to most of the respondents. So they got cancellations usually by the male customer due them being women. So there actually, if we want to delve more on the narrative of the story on why they got cancellations because of women, some customers say that I feel like I'm too big for to being in a bike with a woman. I don't feel like you're strong enough to ride that bike with me, or I'm not confident with women's style of driving. I don't feel safe enough to be on the ride with a motorbike with a woman. So that's why most of them got cancellations. And this also affect their income on how many orders they got in a day, because, you know, male drivers do not get rejected because, you know, I'm questioning your ability to drive. I don't feel safe. You're like too small for me. I don't think you can. We can drive here together. Ride this bike together. So this also, and this has shows structural constraints that is existing aside of the algorithmic design by the platform. So men and women, they are prone to this algorithmic design that doesn't allow them to really pick what they want to do, what customers they want to pick and ride with. And there's also a story that, you know, when the men counterpart, the men drivers start their day early in the morning, they don't get like any cancellation at all because of their gender attributes. It's different with the a woman counterpart, when they want to earn more money, they still face this kind of like cancellations due to their gender attributes. So that's why some of them have to work like harder to and like prolong their working hours so that they can have as many orders as their men counterpart. Of course, this is what we're talking about is the object where they deliver, like picking up customer from one point to another. It will be another story if we are talking about different issues about logistic or like delivery of goods, where people are, you know, like confident to just give it to the woman worker. Which actually, if we are talking about the safety of the goods, when they're questioning the ability of women to drive the bike, it's kind of like you know, if you're questioning my ability to ride this bike while I'm like delivering your goods, why are you not feeling safe with me to ride this bike with me? Although maybe it's gonna be like another questions to be discussed about, especially also when we talk about like, you know, foods, goods, vis-a-vis to versus the, you know, our safety as individual. Maybe it's perceived differently by the customer. So I'm done doing my part about the availability of work and how the women still get prejudice and also cancellations due to their gender attributes. I think Paska will continue from here about another structural issues experienced by these women drivers on the income side.
All right, thank you, Trevi. I hope you can hear me well. So the next structural constraint, in addition to stigmatization to women that might affect the availability for work for them, is their dependence on income. So as we all know, some female drivers might rely on platform work as their main source of income, while others might only do it as a side hustle. And there are different consequences when it comes to this different level of income dependence. This research that we have done finds that women drivers also have non-money related motive to work. So women, a lot of female drivers are also looking for a side hustle that would that would facilitate these female drivers, these women, to go to places and meet other people aside from handling domestic work at home. This especially stays true for stay-at-home mom, for those who are already married and often have to stay at home to take care of domestic works. A lot of them actually told us that they are getting very bored for staying at home, especially for those mothers who already have grown-up kids, because a lot of their kids usually already moved to another place for college. They have moved out of town. They don't really have much work to do at home anymore. So they are trying to look for other activities that could, bring them outside, other activities that they can do in their spare time. And for these female drivers, platform work is the perfect option for them to have this side hustle, these side activities, in addition to becoming a housewife, a stay-at-home mom. So one of the quotes that we got from one of our respondents, you can also read it on the screen. She basically said that she was getting bored of staying at home, and she used to work full time at a factory before, but she had to resign to take care of domestic responsibilities. But afterwards, she is looking for a side job that is flexible enough so that she can still handle her domestic responsibilities, but she can also earn additional income. She can also go out and just breathe some fresh air instead of just staying at home all the time. So she found Gojek, one of the platforms here in Indonesia, and so far she enjoys the work. She enjoys her work as an online driver, and at the same time, she can also fulfill her duty as a housewife. So by this statement, we can see that platform work provides the flexibility that are needed for this stay-at-home mom. So they can go out and have some activities while earning money, but at the same time, she can also handle the domestic responsibilities without any problem. Another quote that we have here, the respondent said that she can socialize with many people and make a lot of friends, and they often greet each other on the roads, and they provide mutual aid, for each other. So we can see that this type of work provides some kind of networking opportunity, some kind of socialization opportunity for these female drivers, which become an added value when it comes to this type of work. Next slide, please. So thus we can see that platform work, and especially in this case, it's ride hailing and delivery services provide some additional added values for these female drivers. Another thing that we need to consider is on how this type of work also provides opportunity for those female drivers or for women who don't really have much skill to offer in the job market. A lot of our participants have expressed their gratefulness for this work because at the end of the day, they can finally go out and do some work despite their, so to say, lack of skills or lack of market skills, and they are finally able to contribute to the family income. And some other female drivers, for example, they unfortunately have to become single parents, so they have to become the breadwinner of the family. These female drivers also express their appreciation for the work that has been provided by the platform, because they can finally go out and do some work that could provide for their family. And at the same time, they also have this perceived, they also have this perception that this work might be able to give them the flexibility of becoming a breadwinner and also of being the stay-at-home mom, of being a parent that takes care of their children and takes care of their domestic responsibilities. So one of our respondents said that she has to work for one of the platforms because she needs money to support her family. But one thing that we need to underline here is that apparently this so-called flexibility might not be, perhaps it doesn't really provide like all good things. Perhaps it is also a double-edged sword that also gives some, that also provides, that might fail to provide all the benefits that it has promised for these female drivers. So, for example, one of our respondents here said that she starts her day at 7 a.m. and then stop working at 9 p.m. and she, on average, works 12 hours a day. So we can see how female drivers, especially those who work as the breadwinner of the family, often work long hours to provide for their family. Another driver, she's not a single parent, but unfortunately, the husband cannot provide for the family, so she doesn't have much choice but to work for the platform, and she also works quite late. So she starts the day at 7 in the morning and go back home at 8 in the evening. So we can see how these female drivers who become the breadwinner of the family work long hours. And these cases, we can see that the flexibility might benefit some groups of women, but it might not benefit the other groups of women. It might not really deliver the promise that that are being offered by these platforms, because the way these platforms work is that usually they have some incentives for the drivers. So for example, if you deliver some goods, deliver some food, or you pick up some customers, you get a certain amount of money per kilometers and so on and so forth. But they also offer bonus schemes. they also offer bonuses. And the way they give these bonuses to the customers is by setting some targets. So for example, you will get 20,000 rupiah when you deliver, let's say, 15 orders. And then you will get additional 50,000 rupiah once you delivered like 30 orders, for example. So they have set like these different targets where you will get some specific amount of bonuses once you've reached these targets. And these bonuses are actually quite significant for them. It's actually a huge benefit for them. So a lot of them, especially those who work as the breadwinner of the family, often work long hours so that they can reach this target. Because without these bonuses, they perhaps can provide daily needs for their family, but a lot of our respondents say that it's quite tight. So they don't really have much money to save, much money to spare. But if they get the bonuses, it can help to add additional income to the family. So they try their best to reach the bonuses, which as a result, they often have to work long hours, sometimes up to 12 hours a day, every day without any rest, without a day off. Next. So we can see that when we are assessing the work-life balance here, flexibility may not always have a positive impact on how these drivers manage their working time vis-a-vis the resting time and family time. As I mentioned before, it really depends on what kind of workers you are. It really depends on the two structural constraints that we have mentioned before, depends on the availability of work, and also depends on how reliant they are on this platform work as their main source of income. So when we are considering these two factors, then we can eventually determine which female workers can benefit from this notion of flexibility that has been offered by the platform, and which workers that might not be able to enjoy this so-called flexibility that the platform is offering. So this is a little bit of summary for the two structural constraints that we have explained before. The first the first constraint is the availability of work. As Trevi has explained before, there are two influencing factors. The first one is algorithm. So the platforms, each platform has their own separate algorithm, and it's a bit, I think it's a company secret, and they sometimes change it from time to time. So for example, one of our respondents said that the company used to have like this equalizer algorithm, as in like every customer will get at least one order every hour. So there is no like spatial treatment, there is no prioritization, and so on and so forth. But on another occasion, the respondents say that their platforms actually applied this prioritization algorithm. So basically, those drivers who have higher performance will be prioritized to get the orders. So those who don't really perform will get less order than those who perform better than them. And by performance, it is often interchangeable with the amount, with the number of orders that you get. So for example, workers who work long hours and they get more orders than those who work like 9 to 5, then those who work long hours will get more orders. The algorithm will treat them better. And linking back to what Trevi has said before about the stigmatization towards female drivers, male drivers who receive more orders because they are not being canceled will be treated better by the algorithm because his performance is better, he gets more order, and therefore his history of work, his performance is on average better than female drivers who often gets canceled by male customers. This is also related to the second part, which is the norms and culture of the society. We can see how cancellation rate towards women drivers are quite high, is quite high due to the stigmatization, due to uneasiness of customers, sexism, and so on and so forth. So there's this occupational bias of a driver being female, of driver being man, and a lot of male customers are still have this sexism, this stigmatization towards female drivers, so that they are reluctant to ride with female drivers. The second type of constraint is the dependence of income. I just explained it before. So there are different effects of platform works towards those who work as towards those female drivers who use the platform work as their main income, and those who only use it as a part-time job. So those who use it as their main source of income might have to maintain their performance by working long hours, and therefore they will have less time to socialize with their family, to take care of their family, and to have quality time in general. Meanwhile, those who only use it as a side hustle, sorry, and those whose husband or whose other family members are the breadwinner of the family might be able to enjoy the flexibility that the platform is offering. For the next slide, please. All right. The conclusion is that we can see that platforms often highlight the flexibility of gig work to attract women to join its workforce. There has been so many campaigns, marketing campaigns. There has been a lot of recruitment events for female drivers, and they often highlight these flexibility perks that it offers. However, the research shows that flexibility in gig work is actually conditional on multiple factors. It's not an absolute thing. The first one is that it depends on the number of works available, which is once again being influenced by a lot of factors. And the second one is the driver's dependence on income. To receive additional benefits from the platform, as I mentioned before, to get the bonuses, object drivers are expected to fulfill a certain number of orders per day. However, this target is often unmet by women drivers due to sexism because of, a lot of high rate of cancellations and how it affects the algorithms, and also because a lot of these women often have to go home to take care of their family, so they are not able to work long hours to reach the target. This research also suggests that women who become the breadwinner and also the caretaker of the family are facing grave difficulties in dealing with these two responsibilities. So the double burden of women, the double burden of the female drivers become one of the important factors on assessing the impact, the benefit of flexibility for these platform works. And therefore, we can see how gig work has failed to uphold its promise of flexibility and work-life balance for those who needed it the most, which are the marginalized women who assume the double burden of occupational work and domestic work. So I think that concludes our presentation for today. I will give it back to Jack as the moderator of this discussion.
Thank you, Paska and Trevi. Okay, this was really a great sharing. I'm taking a full page of notes now, right? And my job, according to our rundown, is to say a few words, okay, and ask some questions, and then before we open it up to Q&A, okay. And I already got several very good questions, okay, and so please keep them coming, and we will try to answer your questions. So before opening up, my very quick comments, okay, there are several things I really like, okay, but at the same time, I also want to post, okay, more questions for more learning, okay, from our presenters today. First thing I really like is their research approach is to talk to the workers, women workers. Okay, so we have a very rich, okay, text today. These are voices of workers, okay, from diverse parts of Indonesia, and then from the voices and the observations, what we in social science we call this the inductive method. Okay, they generalize and see how different experiences, questions, and the problems that facing women workers and the factors influencing them would come together. So they are what they're calling the structure okay, factors, okay, based on the voices are number one. So it's a very effective and memorable way is to look at on the one hand. So there are two dimensions. One is the availability of work, okay, which has more to do with algorithm, which is more objective. Okay, I want to call it there's not 100% objective, okay, structure, but this is more, directly related to the allocation of jobs, okay, or the cancellation, okay, of those, and the income, most importantly, right? And then the second is the dependence on income, okay, which has objective dimension, but even more importantly, subjective, okay, structure, where I think Paska used the term stigmatization, right? So these women are stigmatized as bad drivers, okay, and as maybe not very trustworthy. Again, these are very subjective dimensions. There are stereotypes, and they both of them actually work against, okay, the autonomy, okay, and the gender equality and economic, justice, okay, for these OJAC drivers. And so I really like this way of analyzing, and both ways actually reminds me of other, I think again a couple months ago when we heard from the Thai, okay, they were similar, and then in Singapore we are only starting, okay, to not in a systematic way, not so many, but I've been talking to my Grab drivers, okay, and it seems in Singapore there's a pattern, okay, like if I go out now, or late morning, not we have rush hour in the early morning and at the end of the day, okay, 5 to 7 p.m. It's very hard for women drivers during those times. Usually to Grab just dispatch, by their own calculation. But then if I go out at this time, early afternoon or late morning, there will be higher chance for me to get women drivers. Okay, these are Grab car. And when I talk to them, indeed there are more. They will talk about more experience of being cancelled. Okay, and so this I think even though Singapore is different, okay, but I think it's probably not uniquely, okay, Indonesian for that gender stigmatization, and then people cancel on you. But then what would push us to think harder is, do we want the platform? So this is probably my first question, okay, to learn more. Last time I was in Indonesia, was in Bandung and in Jakarta. It was less than 2 years ago, okay. And actually, of course, to go around, okay, Jakarta, the best way is to use, motorcycle. Yes. So I never, I ordered it many dozens of times. Never female driver. Okay. But to be frank, okay, I grow up, in China where strangers, male and female, actually do not have body contact. So now maybe this is like Harvey just said, this is after COVID. Okay, now you have more women, doing OJAC, right? But then do we want the platform to tell us whether that driver is male or female, or do sometimes there's another really weird situation. Some men, okay, like they want to have body contact, okay, they want to select. Actually, in DD driver. So this is the Chinese version of ride hailing. Yeah. So there are some men, driver, they target female, okay, and sometimes they even committed sexual assault, okay, and killing, the female passenger. Okay, so this is one thing I think I'm still so to spare of it. So what's the best way at the design level for the app, okay, to make it transparent for the passenger to see the gender of the of the driver, or for the driver to see the gender of the passenger. Okay, yeah, I think this is probably one thing, and especially in the Asian context. Okay, I think in Singapore we have Muslim, lots of but also other Asian population. Most of Asian population we don't have that much, except for the intimate, right? Another thing is this really key thing. Okay, I think that goes through the whole study is the issue of flexibility. Okay. So I think there are two. I also get this question about flexibility from the audience too. Okay, I think on the one hand, okay, there is the discourse flexibility, what we talk flexibility. On the other hand, is the practices. Okay, both institutional platform practice in terms of algorithm, and also individual driver and customer practice. Oftentimes, we know human beings don't do, right? So there's a gap, okay, between the discourse of flexibility and the practice of flexibility. And even more important, maybe because we are going to critique, okay, this you have a larger framework, more because I'm a professor, okay. In universities, we historicize things before we say, okay, this is okay. This notion of flexibility has some problems. If you historicize it, if you look at the global labor market as a whole, okay, flexible labor was never seen after in the modern era after the Second World War. Okay? No matter in capitalist or in socialist countries, I grew up in socialist China. Okay, flexible labor was always seen as something undesirable. Okay, before neoliberalism, before the 80s and 90s, right? So the American, okay, let's use the American working class, American dream, right? The working class will work their way up and become the middle class. That's the American dream, right? So the work was, employment is safe, it's predictable. Okay, you can work in Ford factory for 3 decades and expect to retire with your own housing, your own car, and sending your kids to children while leaving yourself a sizable pension fund. Okay, which is not too different if you look at the old state-owned industry in China or Russia, okay, or other industrialized parts of the world in Asia too. Okay, so this discourse of flexibility really came into the world's labor platform since the 90s, when the old capitalist and the old socialist systems were both breaking down. So with their own labor. So there's a very important when we study digital labor. Okay, flexibility. Sometimes it's called the word flexible capitalism. Was you remember it right? Was from David Harvey, 1992, right? David Harvey was already talking about flexible capitalism, and the essential part of that is to have flexible labor, okay, and to prevent workers to have unions, okay, so that they will be precarious, okay, and then later on, we have terms like Guy Standing talking about precariat rather than the proletariat, okay. So this discourse of flexibility is actually created because of the inability of the traditional system to provide good, job security, right? For no matter it's socialist or capitalist way. So I think that's the larger framework, and so here then we can see why. Okay, so the discourse is created to attract workers, but not only female but also male workers into the workforce, and then we've seen it in other contexts. In fact, in China or other parts of Asia, we call them factory girls. Okay, they would work harder and accept lower pay because they have family obligation. And then Confucian culture, for example, okay, can be also another cultural stigma for them. So so to come back, okay, to this theme, the most important finding is that the discourse of flexibility does not match with the practical practices of experiences of workers of and this actually reminds me of a finding. Okay, our Chinese team in Beijing have been doing surveys among DD drivers. Okay, so they want to work for DD to drive. Basically, this is Grab. Okay, in Beijing, in order to be flexible, right? And then they can better control their time while earning income. But then our Chinese team have been doing this for 3-4 years. Yeah. And then we have one question in the survey questionnaire to say, like what Travis, and Paska was saying. We asked them, who the breadwinner of the family. Okay, so the family has to depend on you to eat, to make ends meet. The percentage, was early on was I think 3-4 years ago was like around 40%, but now it's nearly 90%. Okay? Yes. So actually, my colleagues, Sophie Sun and Julie Chen, they're calling it the deflexibilization. So and the practical. So if you are the single breadwinner, you cannot choose whether you want to work today or not, because you have to put food on the table, right? So this is of course, but after listening today, we have not, in that study, we have not differentiated. We should split, to see whether the trend of deflexibilization, okay, is among the male and the female, do they have different patterns? That's actually one thing I got inspired, okay, from you, yeah. And by the way, but it's also a different industry, okay. In that study about deflexibilization, it's actually among food delivery workers. Okay, so not for the kind of vehicle hiring, yeah. Okay, so I think that there's so many interesting points, and maybe let me just finish with my last question here. It's because you tried hard, okay, to cover 5 cities. 3 of them are in Java, right? 2 of them are in other islands. Are there difference between these 5 cities? Can you group these 5 cities into 2 or 3 categories, or I just want to ask, are there regional differences, among these 5 cities?
Okay. Thank you, Jack, for such insightful responses. Again, I'm also getting inspired by like your comments and also what you've been saying about what you do in Beijing, also with the flexible working type, and how when it is a problem, when they are like workers, women workers get cancellation, should we provide the data or not? We've been talking, me and Paska and also the team, we've been talking about it. Is it better to actually know who is coming? So if you have preference for women to come, or if you have preference for the male driver to come, but actually there's a basic issues or problems here. Actually, I'm not sure if it is something that is unique to Indonesia, or it also happens in other countries. So when we are starting to interview them, there are problems that the drivers on the applications and the drivers that is coming to picking you up is like different person, since there is a scheme like selling your account to other people. So when platform starts to limiting the number of drivers that can come and work in the platform, these drivers who wish to no longer keep a platform, they can sell. It's illegal. They sell their account to the other driver, and then it, even if it's like male and male, we cannot really know who is coming. We can cancel if it's someone's difference coming, but it's been an issue for many times, and I think that's that's also becoming, like how the data that they got, the platform got, even it's not always the same with the drivers that come, right, Paska? Or do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I want to add something. So in addition to what Travis said, there are several things when it comes to like identifying the gender of the drivers and the gender of the customers, I guess. The first thing is that what Travis just said. So there's a lot of account selling. So for some people who already have a Grab account or Gojek account and they don't use it, they can sell it. They can sell it to other people. It's illegal. It's not allowed, but a lot of people do that. So they sell to another people who want to work for Gojek or Grab or who want to use the service to earn money from the platform. It happens because the platforms have moratorium on the recruitment, so they don't really open recruitment for new drivers anymore. So, but the demand for working for these ride-hailing platforms are still high. So there is this opportunity, may I say, for those who have the account to sell their accounts that they no longer use to other expectant drivers. Another thing that becomes a concern when it comes to this gender gap or the sexism that happens towards female drivers when it comes to ride-hailing services is that we actually have talked about it to one of the platforms. We have presented our data. We have consulted about our findings to them. We've said that a lot of female drivers are actually being cancelled due to the stigmatizations that they receive from the male customers. And the platforms are fully aware of that. And we asked them if they have plans to allow the option of female drivers to only receive orders from female customers, basically to give the options for both the drivers and customers to pick the gender of the customers or drivers that they want. But they basically say that there is a problem with that because it would lead to unfair distribution of work. So for example, a lot of a lot of customers when it comes to ride hailing, for example, are female, because in some cities the male are actually driving by themselves, so they don't need ride hailing services. And if all these female customers are choosing female drivers, then the male drivers might not receive a lot of orders, and so on and so forth. So they're hesitant to apply this gender option for the drivers and the customers. But one of the platforms, which is Grab, actually has implemented a good policy, in our opinion, called Lady Grab. So basically, the company is creating a program for female drivers.
This is for private car hire or a motorcycle?
Oh, it's for motorcycle.
Motorcycle.
Okay.
Yeah. So our scope of research is only for motorcycle drivers. We don't cover cars. Grab, the company, basically have this program called Lady Grab. The female drivers are given the choice to whether they want to join the program or they want to stay being a regular driver. So in this program called Lady Grab, the female drivers are only able to do delivery services. So they cannot pick up customers. They cannot do the ride-hailing service. They can only do the food delivery and good delivery, the express delivery service. And they are also being prioritized on our interviews with the respondents. They said that they are given more access to orders as Lady Grab. So when it comes to food deliveries and express deliveries, they are being prioritized. They are given special treatment by the company. But for the downside is that they cannot get ride-hailing orders. So I guess there is this compromises from the company and also from the female drivers in order to first address this problem of discrimination from the male customers, and then secondly to address the problem of sexual harassment, which also happens a lot to female drivers. So the company basically offers this option for female drivers to join a special program that would facilitate them for work. Trevi, do you want to add other things?
Yeah, so that's actually also our questions when, like you mentioned before that algorithm is kind of like working objectively, but then if we are applying different treatment for, women and men for with the start like choosing who can get what and like preference, will that still be like an objective like thing, the algorithm itself, and will that makes the male counterpart become like less getting less order? And also that's actually the thing that's being discussed also with the platform when we talk about this issue. They aware about the cancellations and also about the harassment, especially when you are delivering food. It's less likely that you will get harassment, of course, when you are on the street. So I think that's like the middle way, even though they still lose their opportunity to get like, it's easier to just pick up someone from one point to another rather than just waiting for food, like especially if that restaurant is very famous and you have to wait an hour or two to only get one order. Vis-a-vis if you are like doing the picking up like transportations in an hour, maybe you can get like 2 or 3 orders. So I think that's the compromise and middle way. But yeah, nothing's perfect, but I think Grab has done like a better job in addressing this issue in our opinion. So yeah, that's about the woman in the and the stigmatizations. I think it also, I think Karen also mentioned here in the chat box whether it is more common to have the stigma coming from male customers. So based on our interviews, yes. So many are canceling their orders are the male counterparts. We haven't find any instances from our interviews that we have selected in those 5 cities that coming from like another woman customer or like female customers. But I think there might be some, like the stigmatizations of like, woman being a bad driver and all. It's kind of something that's very, I don't want to say quite common, but I would say maybe it's possible to have another woman having that stigma as well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So Trevi,
probably we can get. Oh, go ahead, Paska.
Oh no, I just want to ask Trevi if you want to answer the difference between the 5 cities when it comes to the data that we get.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So actually, from the 5 cities, of course, we have found like different type of issues, different type of like drivers, even who are working in those 5 cities. For example, women workers who are working in Jakarta, for example, they're quite more assertive than the other women drivers in the other area, like for example Jogja. However, we haven't like really grouped them into like what's different between Jogja, between and Makassar. But judging based on the interview, how it went, how they voiced their concerns, it seems to us that these women drivers who are working in Jakarta, especially, they're more like outspoken and they have more access to the company when they want to voice their concern. The company is there, even like for the representatives is there, and the number of the drivers are very large also in Jakarta. So the community is like stronger than in the other city, of course, because it's larger. However, in terms of like how it really is different, we haven't really grouped them together. But I think that will be interesting to see whether, you know, this group from Java, are they going to be different with this group from the other island, or even within Java itself, from Jakarta, Jogja, and Surabaya, will there be any different experience? That's going to be interesting to see.
I want to say something.
Oh yeah, I just want to add a little something. So yeah, as Travis said, actually when it comes to the experience of discrimination and stigmatization, it across the cities. So they have similar experience with one another. But as Travis also mentioned, the drivers in Jakarta actually are more outspoken. So a lot of these female drivers actually told us that they often confront the male customers openly. Wait, cancel my order. Wait, did you pay? And so on and so forth. They did it more openly, whereas female drivers from other areas, at least based on our respondents, they don't do that. They usually told us that they usually just let it slide. So they just move on. They just continue to do what they are doing. So they don't really confront the male customers. But yeah, another interesting thing is that when it comes to the support, so in this in Jakarta especially, they have huge support from other drivers too. And as we have mentioned before, one important aspect from these drivers, male or female, are the strong mutual aids that they have given each other. So a lot of these female drivers actually receive help from their counterparts, male or female, whenever they are facing discrimination or harassment and so on and so forth. And the bigger the cities they work at, they live in, the bigger the support. And in addition to that, we only interviewed those in big cities because obviously the services usually are more popular in big cities, in metropolitan areas. So there might not be much differences between these 5 big cities. It will be interesting actually if we can go to smaller cities like not secondary cities, perhaps like tertiary cities, like those with less populations, those whose ride-hailing services and gig economy in general is still in its infancy, so that we can really compare the differences between like big cities and small cities. But perhaps that's for a future research.
Thank you. Now let's get into the many questions. Okay.
Yeah.
And these are great questions coming from the audience. I think the first question was actually echoes the last one we just got. Okay. It says, what can we do now that we have this problem, okay, with the platform, with the gender equality, okay, but what can we actually do? Okay, so one member who asked the question also mentioned, are there like a training programs? Okay, so one traditional way for worker NGO is to provide training programs,
yeah.
Especially tailored for women workers. In this case, women OJEC workers. Are there such specially tailored programs?
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's very important too. When we talk about fair work, especially specifically in one of the principle, there is also a specific, if there is an when we talk about safety, for example, company or like platform should also have specific trainings for specific possible risk that they will receive. So what we see here in both platforms that we have, that we interview the workers, there are some trainings, or at least if not like face-to-face trainings, that you received like notifications or announcement in their applications on how to deal with things. For sexual harassment, for example, because one thing that is actually very important, and it's also interesting to note in this kind of object online industry, when we talk about sexual harassment, we might infer more on like women driver experiencing sexual harassment. But in one interview, when we talk with the drivers about sexual harassment, she also mentions that, well, you know what, actually, the male drivers also experiencing the same things, if not worse, from the customers. So it's something experienced by the gender. And platforms, actually, what we see here, they treat this type of training for about sexual harassment in the as a responsive way. So it's not something that's like built from the start. Maybe it's not something that they see as like a very, you know, like very basic important thing from the start. But since there were some accidents, some issues happening, and it's kind of like viral in the news and media. Starting from that, the driver said, yeah, now we receive a specific training on how to deal with things if we have experiences this kind of like harassment, like women or male customers. Also, now they are getting like more, making it more strict in the ethics, what is it, the ethic policy for the drivers and also for customers. So if you are being find out that you did things like harassment, even for customers or like for the drivers, you can be blocked. You could be blocked from the platform, so you cannot use access the applications anymore because of that. So there is, but although it's like responsive, it's not something that's being built from the start. I think this is already a good start from an initiative from the platform itself.
Great. Yeah. So there are already some beginning. Maybe this kind of trend, for example, against sexual harassment can be more formalized. Okay.
Yeah.
Can be a YouTube channel or like a pamphlet. Okay. And in different regional languages, even, you know, but using some basic standard components. Another possible way to respond, okay, to this mentioned, you know, by Anna and also Cheryl, okay, it's about like a collective bargaining, okay, and empowering, women workers. In Singapore, for example, okay, the Singapore government has been in the early days of the pandemic, okay, and Singapore government were giving subsidies, okay, to Gojek, okay, or Grab drivers, okay, and then the platform, I think, also take part of that, okay, payment and only give a small part of it to drivers. But then in Singapore, okay, the Grab and also Ojek drivers, they have their their association. The association actually pressed the platform, and talk to the government. Okay, I think several people also asked about government policy. Okay, so in that case, the Singapore government intervened to tell the platform you have to give more of that subsidy to the workers, not to keep it to yourself. Okay, and then the success, that's one way. Usually, collective bargaining is about wages. Okay, but then it can also be about this subsidy. Okay, to protect it's supposed to protect the workers, but actually the bosses, would take away most of those subsidies, and then so it comes in other ways. Do you see this similar kind of collective bargaining, organizing, and especially in the literature about women workers? Okay, again, one thing I think male workers need to learn from women workers. Women workers usually are more effective to talk to each other, to organize. Okay, for collective bargaining, for union rights. Okay, there's a long tradition from Paris Commune. Okay, we see this is for women, workers. Do you see that? Okay, among your interviewees?
I guess I will answer this one. So we do have in Indonesia, we do have some unions for drivers in general, for I mean ride-hailing drivers in general. But unfortunately, based on our interview and also based on previous research, actually there are a couple research on the unions of these ride-hailing drivers. This type of legalized, more formal union is not really popular among the drivers themselves. So they actually prefer a more casual, a more mutual aid-based organizations compared to those legal unions or legal workers organizations that focuses more on, bargaining with the platform and bargaining with the government. One of the reasons why is that because platforms are currently becoming more stricter when it comes to this drivers' engagement or drivers' involvement in protests and drivers' involvement in pushing the companies and so on and so forth. So there has been so many instances when drivers who are involved in protests are being suspended by the platforms because of their involvement in the protests. And unfortunately for these drivers, once they are suspended from the platforms, they cannot reapply. So they are forever blacklisted from using the platforms to earn money. So a lot of these people, and especially our respondents, some of our female respondents actually used to involve, or they actually, one of them actually used to be the organizer for this protest, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if my memory fails me. But one of our respondents actually used to be the orator, but she also said that she's now afraid to join the protest because she's afraid of being suspended, and she relies on her platform work to earn money to pay the bills. So a lot of drivers, especially female drivers, are quite reluctant to join the protest. And when it comes to joining a bargaining body that tries to actively push the government and push the platforms, most of our respondents, in this case female drivers, actually don't join these unions, but they rather join a more collective body that focuses on networking, focuses on mutual aids, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think unionizing, I think it's something that is quite lacking in the context of labor. It's even not for like gig economy and like this object drivers, but labor in general in here, like in this type of for example object driver, they are afraid of joining the union, as what Paska also have told us. And women drivers that we interviewed also, when even in the level of like doing demonstrations or like going to the street and doing protests, they feel like this is also something that's interesting, that they see that's not their job, like it's for their male counterparts. It's quite dangerous out there. We start to do demonstrations also. We the women, we like to they have the community, but again it's basically for like the day-to-day activities, like when someone's ill, when they want to cook together, when they talk about their kids and all. But the efforts to unionizing and have a collective body that could have legal standing against the platform, for example, it's still quite lacking, at least in based on the interviews that we did with the drivers that become our respondents. So I think the spirit to like have a collective voice, because again, this is actually also being affected by the flexibility, since most of them are making it as their main source of income also. Others might get when there's demonstrations and when there's when the union did something and the platform enact some policies that will affect workers, it will affect other workers who is not protesting also. And these two camps, like different camps, the pro, sometimes because it's their main source of income, and when we see that it actually pays quite better in the context of Indonesia's economy, they said it's okay, no need to unionizing and begging for those rights. As long as we can get this job, I can feed my kids and my family, that will be enough. So there's also like different discussions, different arguments between the two camps. Those like, this is my main source of income, like just be it like this, no need to add more or less, this is enough for us. And the other who are more like outspoken and actively seeking out for better income and all. So yeah, that's kind of like an issue when we talk about the collective body or like union. There is no, yeah, I don't think there is any like legal in say about like, like Gojek driver that's become one union and being seen as a legal standing of legal representative of all the workers that can discuss directly with the platform here in Indonesia.
Yes, this is actually an issue, globally, okay, important, because one reason, of course, Indonesia, since Soeharto, okay, time, okay, has this, tradition, okay, to limit the activity of unions, okay, especially formal unions. But I would say in other Asian countries or in Europe and America, there are always the limits, okay, the formal organizing, which means, at the same time, okay, we see informal, okay, some oftentimes, especially in emergent, sectors, okay, like OJAC, like ride hailing, okay, food delivery, okay, usually it's informal. So in this case, the informal, what you call mutual help, this happens through, I would guess, like Facebook, okay, or WhatsApp.
Yes.
Okay, so these are the, so this okay, so this is similar. Okay, in Singapore too. Yeah, I joined a group with like 40,000 okay drivers. Yeah, and but then another key thing is really about this flexibility is okay. Even though okay many of these, or even in cases most of these okay workers depend, they're so dependent on this job to bring food to the table. Okay, so deflexibilized. Okay, but at the same, but legally speaking, they're still freelancers. Okay, they're all self-employed. Okay, so the traditional union, applies for 8 hours a day. Okay, where you have a formal labor contract. Okay, with the company. Okay, but today's gig economy is that maybe you work for 10 hours a day. Okay, but then you don't have the contract, okay, because of this, legal, okay, framework to force you to become freelancers, okay, to carry the discourse of flexibility, but in actuality, okay, you depend on it even more than okay the 8-hour work, so this actually takes us to further question about California's Proposition 22. Okay, I think similar legal battle. Okay, so in addition to workers themselves, okay, we also have all NGOs. Okay, but also government. One part of government is about lawmaking. Okay, so from what I read is that California at the state level, okay, they want to make it. Okay, like in the UK. A couple of years ago, they made Uber driver. Okay, you are, if you drive full time, then Uber should have employment relationship. You are not freelance. Okay, so I think California at the state level wants to follow okay what UK did. Okay? But Trump administration, thank thank God he's going up at the national level. Okay, Trump wants to move the other way. Okay, he wants to make it easier for platform to casualize the worker. Okay, so they're different, at the national and the local level. So what about in the role of the government, including lawmaking bodies at regional or at the national level in Indonesia when it comes to this group of workers? Are there movements, so this is more than economic income. Okay, this is whether workers can have the real choice between freelancer and full-time employment relationship, or they were basically forced because so this is more political in a way, right? In Indonesia, is there a movement trying to give genuine choice to workers to choose between freelancer and employment relationship?
So yeah, I think Paska can also add from what we've been doing based on also our interviews here. The battle is, I think in Indonesia, the battle is still not yet up to there. The level of status of the worker, is it worker or self-employed? So the battle from the start itself is for the government to set up the minimum fare for kilometers, because there was also issues with the conventional taxis and conventional ojek also, and this ojek online drivers, their first battle was to be acknowledged as a.
Is she lagging or it's my connection?
Yeah, I think Travis, you're breaking up. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Can you
So,
hear?
But yeah, I think now it's okay. Yes, Paska.
Okay.
Right, so basically, you start lagging when you say that the battle is currently on the recognition of ojek as public transportation, I assume?
Yeah, true. So as for now, the only type of online ride-hailing that is considered as a public one is the car, and the ojek is not yet up to that level. So since the argument say that ojek is only being used for people transferring from one point to another, and it's not going to be long ride, that kind of argument, I kind of forgot what's the total, the full argument was, but it's still up there, it's not acknowledged. Therefore, they're not being, I think there were some specific laws, regulations, and also protections and rights that they can get if the driver is considered as driving a type of public transport. But as for now, it's only the car that can get that recognition. So that one, and one is up to the level of government setting up the minimum of fare for the driver. So especially for up to 3 kilometers, how much money they get, how much percentage the platform can get. So that was also a battle that has been happening. So, and I think has been done. It has been regulated now. But what's interesting is when we talk about the issues or being we call it here mitra or partner in English. The drivers that we interviewed, most of them actually do not really care about the status of that job, whether it is being a partner or being an employee. Even though for being employee, it will be better because they can get insurance, but there is still not yet that kind of big movement to force platform to acknowledge these drivers, those who work even for 12, 18 hours a day, to become an employee. The issue also actually lies within the labor law in Indonesia, where employer and employee relations has to be decided. It can be considered as an employer and employee relations from based on like three aspects, if I'm not mistaken. And one thing that they see is not cannot be considered as an employer-employee relations is because actually the order, when they get to the driver's app, they can reject or like accept the order. So they see that again, I'm kind of quite fuzzy when it comes to legal because it's not like my expertise. But in Indonesian labor law, the employer-employee relations is defined in a way that in no way that this kind of job can be considered as like employer and employee relations. So I think there will be like the need for like the government itself to start, have discussions about the labor law itself, to also, I don't know, like for maybe workers to like aware of what they can actually get for their rights. But since the bill is still up to there, and maybe the narrative that the government and also the platform always voice out for the public is that it's opening job for our economy. Many unemployed now can get a job with like a relatively low skill. So it's good for everyone. But yeah, so in short, like I don't think there's that already big movement to recognize these workers as employee in these platforms.
Yeah, thank you, Travis. Because of time, sorry, we have to wrap up very soon. Okay, but I take it from your answer that even though in Indonesia, okay, I think other parts of Asia too, many parts of, we are not fighting the similar fight as in California, okay, or in the UK, but okay, there are still lots of spaces within the government, okay, no matter when you talk about the fare, okay, the minimum charge, okay, all these, there are many other places where we can strategize and also, empower workers, through the government. Okay, so don't give up, okay, on trying to influence government officials, okay, in different countries. And again, I think when I look at Indonesia, I still think, Indonesia still has an active civil society, right? And you have election, okay, and then so through those, there are in different countries there are different ways, okay. So don't give up on our efforts to influence the government. So I have just one last question. Sorry, we cannot have ask you every question, but this one is very important. Especially, I'm an educator. Okay, so this one is about millennials generation. Okay, one question is like today's millennials. Okay, these are 20-year-olds or even younger. Okay, and then they got so used to this gig economy, so they don't even want stable. Just we were talking about job security. Okay, so subjectively, many millennials, okay, they just want to get working without jobs. Okay, and then they prefer this kind of, when you tell them when you tell, there's exploitation, there's inequality, there's no job security, they don't care. So what can you tell the millennials, because this is also going on to YouTube. I suppose some millennials, thinking about going into OJAC to make the next peak. Okay, and what can you say to them? That's my last question. As I suppose some of my students in Singapore, they also, we don't want the traditional stable jobs. We just want gig. What should we say to them?
Actually, I'm actually still part of millennial. I'm like the older millennial. But we've had this discussion before, whether like gig economy is the future of work. With so like the so-called digital nomad working from another places to become like a content creator or like designer and all. First, if we are talking about for gig economy in object, for example, of the object drivers in Indonesia are not those who are uneducated at all, but some of them are actually graduated from universities. And our colleague here she talks about the danger of this skilling trap of the skilling. So because the type of job like with object is you just do that thing every day. There is no chance of upskilling. It's different with when you are working in the type of like conventional job. When you are working in a company, there is a chance for you to go to different level, to have like trainings, to have supervisors that oversees your work and all. So you've been like you've got the chance of like upskilling your what you have. But I'm not sure about like a gig in other kind of like sector. For example, I know that like many of, for example, for submitting designs on websites, and also for those who work like architect or like computer engineer or like programmers who also not what can we say maybe it's just a different kind of way of thinking, like people before they wanted to buy house to have to own a house, but now like I don't know, like millennials, I think they gave up owning a house and just say we can live anywhere. So yeah, past any other. But one thing that I got is about the object, the danger of this skilling, trap of this skilling, but I'm not quite sure about the other type of gig work.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to gig economy itself, it's quite a huge scope. There are so many types of gig economy. I think we can group it into different classifications, into different categories. We have those who also, what is it, involves proximity, geographical proximity. So you can only do the job if you are being in proximity to the customers. And then there are gig economy that basically you can do in other parts of the world on the exact opposite side of the world. So there are many types of gig economy, but if I'm talking to a fellow millennial or to Gen Z, a generation below me, I'm actually Gen Z, quite Gen Z. I'm much younger than Trevi actually.
It's
but
of age.
But actually, when we're talking about gig economy to millennials or to younger generation in general, what we need to point out is on how on the pluses and minuses of gig economy, right? Because gig economy is often what is it? Interchangeable, not quite interchangeable, but when you are talking to other people, they often confuse gig economy with freelance work. So in a sense, it is quite similar to freelance work, as in like there is less stability in it so far until now, and you can also do the work like remotely in most cases. And the other hand is that you can actually pick the jobs, and you can also what is it, like take some break as you pleases according to your needs, according to your situation. Whereas if you're working in a conventional way in a company, for example, it will be more difficult for you to take a longer break. For example, you just want to travel the world for a month, then it will be a bit difficult, a bit impossible for you to do that. If you work in a conventional way, you can just take like a 1 month leave and so on and so forth. But in gig economy, perhaps it's more, it can be accommodated by the system. But on another hand, there's also this issue of, for example, pensions. So once you retired, you don't give anything from the company. Whereas in conventional works in company, perhaps you get some pension. Would you call it pension remunerations, pension fees, something like that? So there are pluses and minuses, and I guess the younger generation should consider these pluses and minuses not only from the perspective of a worker, but also if you want to develop some type of new gig, some type of work, you want to convert like a conventional work to a new kinds of gig economy later on. You also need to consider these factors, these variables, not just so you can provide like a good working condition for your partners, for your independent contractors. Sorry. So yeah, I think one of the things that we need to consider is this plus and minuses, especially related to stability and flexibility. Once again, I think based on my discussions with other millennials, other younger generations, we are often afraid of this stability because there is arguably less stability when it comes to gig economy, but there's also a lot of flexibility. And I personally would love to work in a gig economy. Of course, perhaps not as a ride-hailing drivers because I cannot drive, but as for other type of occupations.
Okay, thank you both. I think I learned more to tell my students, okay, today from your answers. Okay, so one thing, Travis is saying is, don't give up. When you are young, don't give up on upskilling. Okay, so if you keep doing, and then let the platform do the calculation for you, then even as a OJAC driver, okay, your knowledge is improving, you're not growing. Okay, so that's, I think that's really important. And from Paska, that punchline is that flexibility and stability can go hand in hand. But you want to be flexible but not precarious. Okay, and you can still that's the way to think about more long term. And this also goes back to okay, I'm just saying one last thing before I hand it back to Karin for the final wrap up, because we're already 10 minutes after we are supposed to end. Sorry for going over time, but thanks so much for all the great questions, and sorry we cannot answer all questions. But one thing, in my 10 years ago, I had a book, called Working Class Network Society. One finding, this book was about Chinese workers using digital media, in the first decade of the 21st century. One finding is that digital media, this was before smartphone, this was still about cyber cafe and feature phones, but even back then, digital media were empowering workers at the micro level. Workers now have more. It's easier for workers to move from one city to another, from one factory to another. So they are empowered at the micro level, but at the same time, they are disempowering workers at the macro level. Meaning, at the beginning of this decade, when this book, Working Class Network Society, was talking about, more Chinese workers at the macro level, they had job security. And then when they send their kids to school or the grandparents to hospital, they don't need to worry about them to be cheated, to get lousy medical treatment, and but then at the end of the decade, they have to take care of themselves, to find jobs, to find housing, to find quality education or senior care. So at the macro level, they're disempowered. This was my finding from 11 years ago, 12 years ago, I should say. Right? So I think what should we do, to reconcile micro level, individual level empowerment and the macro institutional level disempowerment? The key answer is that the meso level, in between the individual micro and the macro individual. So that's where we find our union, our networks, our Facebook groups, our mutual help. Okay, and also, when you are talking about having flexibility and stability at the same time, okay, it will be better if you can have your own autonomous, okay, network, okay, to help each other, okay, at the meso level. So that's where I would like to again echo the findings about between the discourse of flexibility and the practice of deflexibility. Okay, and there are actually lots of spaces, okay, for collective formation, for including millennials, okay, to form your own networks and control your own destiny, rather than let the platform, okay, to make decisions for it. All right, I'm done now. Pass this back to Karin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Jack. A very insightful couple of last sentences. I feel like I don't know about the other participants, but I really do enjoy today's discussion. It felt like a personal lecture. It gave me a lot of insights that I would not have thought that I would get from such a discussion like this. So thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much for all the speakers for today. And before we end the session of this discussion, further announcement again. So as I had mentioned before, early on, that we will have a couple of prize for the best questions, and the best question is that we have selected is Firda from UGM. So congratulations! You may claim your prize by contacting us at 0838 6969 8181. Or you can check it in our Instagram page, where we will have our contacts within the Instagram page. And I'm sure that maybe the event team will also put the number in the chat box. Please do so. And then so please do contact us. And for the other participants, as we have mentioned before, there will be e-certificates for everyone, but we will only allocate 1 hour for the form after this event is over. So please head on to the form, which is at ugm.id/certifdiffusion41. The link will also be added by the team event in the chat box below. And without further ado, one last thing, don't forget to follow our social media in Instagram and Twitter at CfDS_UGM. Do please check our website at ugm.id, sorry, 1 second, research at ugm.id CfDS publication, and do follow our website and look forward to many more researchers from our great researchers. And I think that's all from me. Thank you very much for all the participants. Once more, thank you again for the speakers. Yes, Matrafi?
Should we do a group picture together?
Sure. Group picture. Come on, everyone. Please turn on your cameras. We'll have a group picture if you would all do so. Thank you. See a lot of exciting faces here. I hope that today's discussion was very fruitful and helpful for everyone. Anyone else wants to turn on their camera before we start taking the pictures? Or is this it?
Maybe this is it.
Okay, anyone else? We will wait for 10 seconds before we take the pictures. Is the event team ready to take the pictures? I hope they are. Okay, let's see. Anyone else want to turn on their... Okay, 1 second. Okay, sure. Anyone else wants to turn on the cameras?
Thank you very much.
Okay, if not, then... Yeah, I think this is all. So let's all take a picture together. So 3, 2, 1, say cheese. Okay. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Already got the picture? Team event?
Yes, should be.
Okay. Oh, one more. Okay, one more, guys. One more. Pose. Okay. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Okay, I think that's all. Okay. Any last remarks from our speakers, Batrefi or Mas Paska? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you once again, Professor Jack. Thank you once again, Batrefi, Mas Paska. And thank you everyone for participating. See you all again in another event from CfDS. Don't worry, there'll be plenty more during this year. So do do wait for it, and maybe one day I'll be the speaker too. So we'll see. Thank you, everyone. You have a great day.
Look